WhiteRa going to have to keep an eye on that, as those Marauders with the stim going to be able to do a lot of damage against those buildings. Now it looks like WhiteRa transitioning to some High Templar. He's got storms about halfway done. So the High Templar are going to be very good along with those Colossi, not really going down any tech path too deep. He's going to have a lot of options here. If he sees his opponent has a lot of Vikings on the field, he can instead favor these Templar and the Psionic Storms. If there are Ghosts on the field, he can instead go for these Colossi. So we see this drop coming in, and it looks like that Stalker in position, able to take down that dropship. And now it looks like TLO going to try to focus down the Twilight Council. He does see that it is working. It is working on the Zealot speed. And now these Marauders are going to try to do as much Zealot damage as they can, almost getting that Zealot down before they go down. It looks like another drop there thwarted by WhiteRa, so TLO not able to come with the distraction in the natural this time. And TLO sort of reversing the script here, really see WhiteRa setting the pace in a lot of his recent games with drops, but instead TLO dropping and really harassing his opponent. Again, more the QXE mentality. QXE and Huck have a lot of games which go like this, where QXE just does so much damage with small numbers of units, and the only thing you can do is warp in units, do your best to defend against it, and do what WhiteRa is doing right now, and that's to counter hard against your opponent. He's got the extended thermal lance on these Colossi, so he's going to be able to do a lot of damage to this planetary fortress, taking down this missile turret. And he has these High Templar into position as well, so any sort of Marines and Marauders which come in to try to take on these Colossi, they're going to be taking some storms in the face. Looks like these Vikings moving into position, trying to do their best to micro, stay very close to these Colossi. One Colossi goes down, as well as a storm. Not much damage done to those Vikings, though. Not a lot of Stalkers in this army mix for WhiteRa. Now he's going to try to take on this planetary fortress. TLO needs to get a surround. Needs to start doing some repairs here by those SCVs. But with the High Templar on the field and the threat of storms, it looks like TLO are going to be retreating back. He's going to give up that planetary fortress, and now going to do his best to defend here. He's got some nicely placed tanks. These Zealots are not going to be able to get in. They do have leg speed. And it looks like TLO doing a bit of a counter at the same time. He's got a lot of Marauders here. Going to try to take down this Nexus. A stim going down, trying to kite away from those storms. And now he needs a few more shots to take down the Nexus. The Nexus does go down, and now he can pick up anytime he wants, and it looks like he's going to do just that. So taking down that all-important Nexus at the natural. If he's able to take down this Nexus as well, he could do a lot of damage to the economy of his opponent. So it looks like he's going to be dropping on this third Nexus as well. WhiteRa does have some storms in position, but again, the storm's going to take multiple storms to try to take down these Marauders. We see a feedback going down on one of those dropships. The Zealots doing their best to follow these dropships around and really prevent the drop. He needs to get a few more Stalkers out on the field to control these drops, though. Really surprised he has not transitioned to Stalkers. As we see TLO doing his best, he does have another command center up, and I believe he wanted to land it over here, but WhiteRa doing a nice job placing the pylon. And on Xel'naga Caverns, you definitely want pylons on each side of the map. Just for some map control, you can warp in units anytime you see a medevac fly by, or if you see a command center as well. So doing a little bit more harassment with these Marauders, going to try to focus down these Stalkers, and again in small numbers. The Marauders just so very powerful. High Templar coming in here like a boss, taking down that medevac. So could get another feedback on the medevac, and it looks like he was finally able to take down that Marauder. And again, WhiteRa using a very heavy Zealot force here, no upgrades either. So very surprised he's not going for more Stalkers, and he does not have any upgrades for these Zealots. If he's going to try to chew through these Marauders, I believe that he'd want to get some armor and attack upgrades. And it looks like we have Stim, or at least looks like we have Ghosts out for TLO. So he's going to have some EMPs against those High Templar. WhiteRa does have out a Warp Prism at this point, and he's got a lot of High Templar, so he's going to be able to load those up, drop them in the back of any mineral patch, and get some excellent storms on the SCVs. Nice unit mix. He's got an Immortal in here as well as a Colossus and a few High Templar, and at this point it all comes down to micro between those High Templar and those Ghosts. If he's able to get some feedbacks on those Ghosts before they get the EMPs off, it could spell doom for TLO. I like the fact that he's leading in here with the Warp Prism, dropping these High Templar. It's going to save them from EMP, so he drops them and immediately storms. Looks like he's warping in some Archons here off of those low energy High Templar as well, trying to pierce into the defenses of TLO. TLO landing those Vikings. Again, not a lot of Colossus out on the field for those Vikings to work on. TLO does need to get those Vikings into position to work on the one Colossus. Now we do see some Stalkers in the area. They are going to be able to control the air a little bit. Along with those Archons doing a nice job with the splash damage, they can take on tightly packed Vikings. And now going to try to get into the base of TLO. A nice EMP going down on those Archons, but again, only 100 shields taken off by the EMP. But WhiteRa doing a ton of damage here, making it into the main almost of his opponent. Meanwhile, in the third of WhiteRa, we have a drop going on. So TLO hoping to get some counter pressure going on, forcing his opponent to defend. But we have a High Templar in here doing a lot of storm damage on these SCVs. If we check the income count, it is 62 SCVs to 43 Harvesters. Both players doing a lot of damage to their opponent's economy. Wow, so it looks like TLO finally losing all those Marauders. WhiteRa able to clean up the harassment at the third there. He has gotten up another Nexus at this natural. So the income count, TLO is really hurting. He only has one mining base and he's down to 5 mineral patches. So it looks like he is getting up this gold. It is well established here. He's got very good saturation as we see his income skyrocket. He's got a lot more workers than his opponent, but WhiteRa going to do his best to try to even up that count. He's got a Colossus here, and he also has some High Templar, and especially on this gold, doesn't have a lot of mineral patches, so those SCVs become very tightly packed, along with a lot of mules there, spending a lot of energy, and these High Templar moving into position, trying to get some storms. Not a very good storm there. And now these Marauders moving into position. They're going to want to try to snipe off one of those High Templar. Looks like they were able to there. And again, the storm's not very good against these Marauders unless you catch them with a lot of storms or a lot of overstimming. WhiteRa doing his best with this Observer, giving him sight on the high ground. Going to try to control the mining off this gold expansion while he mines off of both his natural and his third. See, TLO almost mined out at his natural. And now if he loses this Planetary Fortress, it could be GG. TLO doing his best to repair up this Planetary Fortress. He's got a nice surround with SCVs, but some storms going down on this SCVs, pulling off the SCVs, no more repair going on, but WhiteRa just does not have the forces right now to take on this Planetary Fortress. If we check the army count, it is 2,100 to 1,400. WhiteRa wants to get in on this Planetary Fortress, stop this mining, as TLO used this extra command center to get another Planetary Fortress down. Really question that. He could have landed another command center at a different base, but right now if this gold is assaulted by WhiteRa, he's not going to have much mining going on at all. As a great storm going down there, a lot of SCV damage, catching all those SCVs, repairing that siege tank, taking down quite a few of them. If we check the income count, it is 49 Harvesters to 34, and no mining going on for TLO. So WhiteRa doing his best now to just take down as many SCVs as he can. See a lot of them very low life. One more storm just could spell doom for the Terran player at this point. Now taking all these free kills, not a lot of army on the field for TLO. Most of his defenses are in these Planetary Fortresses, and this Colossus doing its best, outranging those Planetary Fortresses with a range of 9, taking down a lot of SCVs. We see just down to 22, now 21 SCVs. A lone Viking on the field going to be working on this Colossus, but I'm not believing it's going to be in time, as WhiteRa has a very nice force here compared to his opponent, 2,700 to 1,700. Not really sure how TLO is going to get back into this one, though. A nice EMP there, taking down that Colossus. And he's got very low health on a number of units. So if TLO is able to rally past this, he can get this gold up and running once again. He does have the 2 Planetary Fortresses, so a decent amount of defense. But WhiteRa being very annoying. He's just got a lot of units undefended here, taking down a number of units, or a number of the buildings of LiquidTLO. It looks like we have first a pound sign and then a GG from TLO. So a GG from the Terran player. Game goes on a little bit longer as one of the observers does not leave the game for quite a few minutes. So I imagine it's not a ladder game if there were observers. So wrong about that. But a pretty good game here. A lot of counter aggression by both players. Feel like WhiteRa actually got put back on his heels a little bit at the start. TLO was dropping in both the main, attacking the natural at the same time, sort of pulling that single control group, Protoss army, one direction then another. We often see that in these games, but he was not able to take down any important tech structures. He just took down a pylon or two, was never able to get that robotics bay or that Twilight Council, and eventually just the macro of WhiteRa harassing the SCVs of TLO with those storms and those colossi, eventually getting on 4 bases, it looks like, by the end. And TLO, the early gains he got in the mid game just did not translate into a very strong position in this late game, as WhiteRa had a very slow push into the natural and into the gold, taking down SCVs, very patient of him. He did not overcommit. He did not try to take on that planetary fortress, which a lot of players make that mistake. Instead, he just sort of stayed back, poked and prodded at those SCVs, and was eventually able to strangle a GG out of a very strong Terran player in TLO. So I brought you guys a TVP here between 2 high-level players. If you're looking for more SC2 action, check out my channel Matron StarCraft at YouTube. Thanks for watching this one.